Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
Welcome back.
MisFitNation. MisFitNation.
We are a show founded by veterans and hosted by veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their story to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the MisFitNation. If you're a musician or actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on, share some of your tips with the audience to help them become better versions of themselves. If you're a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and share how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you're a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and just share your story with the MisFitNation. We always have time for you. Reach out, we will get you on. If you are feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle, or are embarrassed to share that with them, please dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make it a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast apps and also on our YouTube channel at @the_MisFitNation. That's @the_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell. This will keep you up to date with all of our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Electrocast Media and About Face Radio. This will keep you up, tune into us, and learn more about our great guests.
Tonight we have another good one. We are joined by a true advocate for veterans. But first, let me thank you all for joining us and being a part of the MisFitNation, whether it is here at home or around the world on About Face Radio. You are what keeps us pushing forward and bringing in amazing people to share their stories. We chat about a lot of different topics on here and have many experts from a variety of specialties come and share advice with the MisFitNation. We also are advocates for our sisters and brothers who served along with first responders. Right after our show the other day, we learned of the loss of a brother who retired just 1 week ago. After 2 decades of service, he lasted a week out of uniform before succumbing to the darkness. Please, and we ask you this all the time, reach out if you are feeling down. You can call the show hotline at 202-813-9379. We will talk to you. We also last in the show introduced you to the 5-to-1 mentality, and I'm going to share it with you again here. In the EOD C. Bernie world, we hear about the 5-to-1 charge all the time. That's 5 pounds of explosive to each pound of agent. Here we want you to understand, for every one of you, there are at least 5 people who are close to you, who care about you. Use your 5-to-1 and keep pushing forward. Thanks for staying with me now. On to tonight's amazing guest. Everything about our next guest was influenced by military service. Growing up as a Navy brat and serving nearly 30 years as an Air Force officer. She is the author of Beyond Thank You for Your Service, the Veteran Champion Handbook for Civilians, and has a master's degree in nursing and political science. She was inspired to equip people who have never served in the military to become veteran champions. When she noticed how different her life had been from most Americans and that citizens knew little about military culture. As an award-winning businesswoman and a veteran hiring advisor for the Arizona Society of Human Resource Management, she coaches employers how to excel with hiring and retaining veteran talent. A highly sought-after talent pool. Less than 3% of veterans are unemployed, while more than 30% are underemployed. Her Veteran Talent Academy equips employers to find leverage and retain veterans. She also equips volunteer leaders to build military ministries that cultivate mutual support, a sense of belonging, and spiritual resiliency for military-connected people. So without further ado, let's welcome U.S. Air Force veteran and author Kathy Gallowitz to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Kathy.
Hey, Rich, thanks for having me. And thank you so much for all you do for our brothers and sisters in arms. Proud of you, my friend.
Thank you. And thank you for agreeing to switch from a pre-record to a live at the last second.
You bet. This is a lot more fun. Put me on the spot.
Definitely. So as I told you in the pre-show and in our conversations earlier, we'd like to know more about you. I mean, I just gave a blurb about you right there. Tell us about your story from as far back as you want to go to how we got to where we are now.
Oh, thank you. So I think it's kind of fun to start with my youth because I was a Navy brat, grew up as a daughter of an active duty pilot and communications engineer. I was typical brat. I went to a French speaking preschool in Paris, France. Moved in the middle of my junior year in high school where I had the strongest sense of belonging I'd ever known after being somewhere for 7 years. Went from a class of 400 as a varsity cheerleader to a class of 30, graduating from a small Department of Defense high school in Keflavik, Iceland, out in the middle of the North Atlantic. But okay, from there I went to college in Munich, Germany. Air Force nursing was my first choice career. My parents paid for nursing school. I wanted to serve my country because I loved my country. I had a profound appreciation for our way of life, very patriotic. I loved the leadership, the traveling, the opportunity to work with people from all over the world, and the diversity and the variety of experiences that the military offered. So I spent about 6 years on active duty as an Air Force nurse. Then became a flight nurse at Kelly Air Force Base, an Air Force Reserve nurse at March Air Force Base, but spent the lion's share of my career in the Ohio Air National Guard as a nurse, and then I transitioned over into public affairs. The crowning achievement of my career, Rich, was the opportunity to build a statewide, never been done before outreach program in response to 9/11, because we could see, in the Guard or Reserve, 80% of our workforce is part-time. So that means they're either they have full-time jobs that, pay their bills, or they are college students. And so either way, we certainly need to keep employers on our national security team. We did some outreach to educators, lawyers, healthcare providers, educators, and then clergy. And it was so gratifying to really see how eager citizens are to learn and how great it makes them feel when they go beyond thank you for your service, when they actually roll up their sleeves and do substantive things that improve quality of life, workforce, or community for the service member, but creating that mutual benefit for the workforce and the community. So my life's calling truly is to equip civilians to become veteran champions. And that's what I do through my business now, Vanguard Veteran.
I love that veteran champions for veterans. I think that's awesome to have them understand us because we are a different breed sometimes. And
yes,
we come with a grain of salt, a lot of us, but a lot of us have a lot of skills, a lot of talents that are hidden behind that bravado, hidden behind that tough exterior,
yes,
and
sir.
Or that beat up exterior, and bring a lot to the party that a lot of employers don't know what we have. And it's good to have someone like you out there building that force out there and getting them to hire and retain. Retain is the big thing too.
Yes, it certainly is. The underemployment's big. I mean, I don't know that that's really been researched a whole lot, but generally I read that about 30% of, veterans are underemployed, but there's also a study that suggests it's upwards of 43%. I think, veterans aren't necessarily good self-advocates. I mean, we can certainly be assertive, but, it takes a lot of adjustment to go to work in the civilian workforce and to feel your way and find your way. And So anything we can do to help civilian employers understand military culture better and leverage everything a veteran brings, the better off both the veteran will be as well, and the workforce will be stronger.
And I know when I got out, there was a huge number. I forget the number at that time, and it's probably still pretty high now. That veterans that do not stay at the first job they take after they come out of the military because of that civilian military divide, and it takes about a year for them to understand that they're not wearing them boots anymore. They're not wearing that uniform, and they have to kind of evolve what their skills are and bring them to the next table. And the other table has to evolve and understand what they're bringing, and they leave and wind up in a different place.
Well, and the Society of Human Resource Management reports that 68% of employers feel that veterans perform better than, if not much better than, their civilian counterparts, and that they stay 2.5 times longer than their civilian peers after the first post-separation job. And yet, interestingly, that was like a 2019 study. I read one recently from the same organization that said 91% of employers feel that veterans stay as long as civilian peers. So that, in other words, turnover isn't really a big issue for veterans. And so that's interesting to me. I certainly instinctively believe that our talents and aptitudes are not being fully leveraged in the civilian workforce quite yet. But it's good to hear that the turnover is going in the correct direction.
Yes.
But it's only going to happen if our employers know how to communicate and understand and connect and advance the veterans in their employ. There's a lot to it.
And in my first job out of the military, it was a veteran service organization, but most of the company was not veterans. They were mostly civilian, young civilians, 20 to 24-ish, 22, 24-year-olds, maybe 26 was the oldest, and they didn't know anything about us. They thought we were just grumpy old guys and gals that worked there and didn't really respect the veteran culture, but I didn't want to be a statistic, so I stayed there 2 years and then fell into a new job, the job I'm in now. So I just hard-headedness kept me there an extra year. Other than that, I would have probably left it at 1 year.
So what are you doing now?
I train soldiers on emerging threats.
Okay. You're kind of sort of a military-like position.
Yes, just that now I get to go home whenever I please instead of, whenever they want me to come home.
Isn't that nice? Absolutely. Yes. I love that part.
We got a couple of comments already welcoming you in here. Chuck Woods, who was guest last week, he's welcomed you here.
Hi, Chuck. Where are you? Where's Chuck?
He's in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Where are you, Rich?
Clarksville, Tennessee, about a 1 mile direct line of sight from him, actually.
Okay, well, my husband, career active Army, guess where he spent 10 of his 25 years?
Right here with the 101st Airborne Division.
Clarksville, Tennessee. My boy is a logistician and a recruiter. Nice. Some of you may know him, Ed Gallowitz. A shout out to Clarksville land. His son is a football coach at Clarksville High School. And so I have been on, Wilma Rudolph. Did I say it right?
Rudolph Boulevard. Yes.
Man, I've been there plenty of times. Been to West Creek High School and some of the other high schools for football games. And we were talking recently about maybe wanting to come to a division review. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Oh, that'd be so fabulous. So I've been to Clarksville quite a few times. Yeah.
Also, Jake is welcoming you too. He also all three of us work on base at Fort Campbell, and he lives in Cadiz, Kentucky now.
Oh, hey, Jake. Nice to meet you. My oldest son's name is Jake. So it's near and dear to my heart.
Nice.
How's the weather these days out in Clarksville?
It was 32 degrees at 6 p.m. tonight. We had ice for 2 straight days, which is, rather strange here, but and then it's, of course, shut everything down. And then today it kind of melted up a little bit. School's got a 2-hour delay today, but
oh, really?
They're back at it, and tomorrow will be their last day of the week. And soldiers had a 2-hour delay as well today after 2 days off.
I'll be darned. Well, we've lived out in Phoenix now for about 3 years, and
you'll get a lot of snow there.
It's delightful. The weather, the sunshine. I mean, we've had like one of the coldest winters, I guess, that we've had in several years, I guess. And, it was like 50s, and, some of the mornings were 30s, but,
Oof.
the sun comes out, and, most days, and when it rains, it's like, huh, it's raining in Phoenix, Arizona, you know? So the sunshine is such a mood lifter, and just so wonderful to be around. But anyway, what do you want to talk about? I'm getting off topic.
I was gonna let you know, Chuck's both his kids graduated from Clarksville High School. So,
All right.
I think we want to talk about your ministries, the veteran ministries. I think that's something awesome to talk about. A lot of people don't speak about that side of things. I'd like you to just introduce it to us and let us know.
All right. Military ministries are a great way to connect people inside your faith community. Let's just say inside your church. The statistics tell us that about 40% of people who leave military service have a difficult time finding meaning and purpose and regaining touch with their spirituality. Now, that's just generally speaking. It's probably higher for people who've experienced combat because of moral injury and or soul injury. And underpinning all that, Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, about 55% of them feel disconnected from mainstream America. Or another statistic from the Bush Institute is that 84% of veterans feel that Americans don't understand the challenges they face. So the military civilian divide, I believe, is alive and well. And as you all know, listening out there, if you've transitioned from military service, it's tough. Going from a structured hierarchical environment to a loosey goosey gray, community that where you don't really even know your neighbors oftentimes, coming from a sense of tribe to one where, people just do their own thing and they're kind of looking out for themselves. It's no greater place to foster a sense of belonging and to get practical support, friendship, encouragement. No better place than that inside a faith community, inside your church. And I believe, Rich, that these military ministries, because of the connectivity, because of the spiritual resiliency, because of the leaning on faith, on your faith, I believe that military ministries will help curb veteran suicide. Why? Because we don't like to ask for help. We're super stoic in our mindset, and coming together within a faith community will really foster social connection, and I think break down social isolation if you can get, in particular, the combat veterans to show up. That's the challenge. But in my case, my husband and I, who's a combat veteran, started a military ministry called Vet Connect in a small non-denominational church in Fountain Hills. And it's a very eclectic group. In leadership, typically you draw people who are like you because they feel most comfortable with you. And so in my group, we've got military moms, military wives, and then some female veterans. But then also there's a couple male Vietnam veterans.
Wow.
And a combat veteran or two have showed up sporadically, right? And what's so wonderful is that I'm not a combat veteran, and so I can't relate to anybody who's been there very well. But whatever you don't have in this capacity, somebody else in your group probably will be able to relate to somebody else's experiences, and that fosters a connection. Now, a key part of this is, I'm a nurse, but then so I'm a helper kind of person, and I've got some training in communication and how to take care of people. But you don't have to be a nurse, you don't have to be a pastor, you don't have to be a counselor to do this work. And so what I do is help volunteers, people like you, Rich, people like Jake, people like Chuck, anybody else who might be out there listening, to come alongside their clergy and do this in partnership with clergy to, foster a place of connection and a place of hope and a place to lean on your faith to help you get through the tough spots. And it's really beautiful in its simplicity. But there's no cookie cutter approach. There's a lot of different ways you can approach this. You want me to keep talking, or do you have a question?
I was going to say that's an awesome thing. The person I told you about in the pre-show, I was say pregame because I'm thinking Super Bowl and you're in a game.
Sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about who's coming to town for you there. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. My mind went a week forward.
Yeah.
But Andrew Jones, he's there in Arizona as well, and he started a men's ministry for all
Oh.
men, not just veterans, but he invites all male veterans to come in there. And
Oh.
he's actually a speaker as well. I'd love to connect you to after this.
Please. Yeah.
That's all. I was getting all these light bulbs
Oh.
when you were speaking. I said,
Okay.
this is Andrew's. This is his wheelhouse right here. It'd be great.
Well, absolutely, it's wonderful, and so I'll keep going. It's important to realize that a military ministry there's no cookie cutter approach to it, Rich. You gather people. First, you got to identify the people in your congregation that have any association with the military, and or those who just love our military and want to, come alongside as those civilian veteran champions and be supportive. You find people who want to participate. Somebody's got to be the honcho, the facilitator, the connector. And then you bring people together and you start slow, building trust, building relationships founded on action and trust, right? And then you just figure out what the group wants to do. Now, in our case, there's so many people moving to Arizona. I know that, you guys Nashville is certainly experiencing that too. But in our community, Arizona is highly military friendly. But the people in our town of about 30,000, something like that, a lot of people were new to the town with these military connected people. And so the most vocal participants and the most regular participants in our military ministry, I call Vet Connect, they were like, we tried doing a study. We tried doing a study on PTSD, and we got about halfway through it. And the group just was like, we love getting together and getting to know each other. And so it became more of a fellowship and a prayer group. And now we're moving towards doing service kind of projects, going to the local veterans home. And one gal hosted a Veterans Day service. We went out to Rancho Milagro, which offers equine therapy to veterans and youth. And so we, did a couple hours worth of manual labor just to help out there. And we've done some care packages. And so we're looking at different kinds of service projects that are meaningful to the people in our group. Okay. We also supported a women's conference that was at our church as a way to show support for our pastor and his wife. That partnership with the clergy is really important. And so ours is basically founded on fellowship, prayer, and service projects. But in my book, I think it's chapter 5, it's all about different clergy and different ways that they have served their community through their volunteer leaders. So you can offer a study. Crew Military has a program, a book called the Combat Trauma Healing Manual for the service member. And there's also then one for the spouse. We Are Stronger is a video series for families who want to understand what PTSD looks like and, how the family, to kind of help the family understand it and the service member kind of the journey towards, getting help. So there's just a lot of different ways that you can, serve the needs of your people. You could, if let's say all your people are Vietnam veterans or World War II veterans, okay, and so they're a little bit older, and maybe they just want to know about benefits, or you want to honor them with a great military related ceremony, or let's say you want to do a wall of honor in your congregation. But everything that's nice, a wall of honor is nice, but I call that thank you for your service. The whole goal is to go beyond that. And you go beyond it by developing relationships That means getting to know the people. That means, sincerely asking, hey, how you doing? Is there anything I can do for you? And then following through, making sure that you actually provide the service for that service member that needs support. Excuse me just a minute. I got to plug in my computer a little better.
Okay.
Ooh, I don't know what's going on. I think we're okay.
All right. Got a comment from Chuck on here. Are there any ministries in Clarksville, or is there a way to find local Vet Connect type organizations here for ministry?
Oh boy, that's a really good question. I don't know about in Tennessee at Clarksville, but my guess is I would say by the base that there's probably some pretty active churches who reach out to the soldiers. I'm just not personally firsthand familiar with it. There is an organization called Military Ministries, and they focus on trying to support active duty military members. So I would not be surprised if there weren't something there, but I don't know specifically where it is. We are our Vet Connect ministry is Luke Air Force Base is about an hour away, which isn't too far, but it's too far to live and work at Luke. So there's, but there's, like 500,000 veterans in Arizona. And I'm not even sure how many active military there are, but there's military everywhere. So no, I don't know about so much in Clarksville, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is something. But more importantly, why don't you start something? Right.
There you go. So challenge accepted.
I say that again.
I told them challenge accepted.
Right on. I mean, it's not rocket science, guys. Okay. And so what you do, the first step really is to go talk to the leadership, the pastor, the priest, the rabbi, and ask, hey, what are we doing here to support our military connected people? And by and large, you guys, more often than not, I mean, I had one pastor of a pretty big church in Ohio. I asked him that question, and he kind of scratched his head and he said, I've never thought about it. I was like, yikes. I mean, but let's be real. Let's be fair here, right? The deal is that the formal leaders, the clergy who run their faith communities, they're overworked and underutilized. I mean, they are stretched super thin, and there's lots of different needs in their congregations than they need to address. And so because we military people are just kind of, I'm going to, button up and shut up, and, I'm not going to ask for anything. And, I'm just going to go about my life. And, they're not like, hey, I need help over here. So if there's a facilitator, someone who asks the clergy member if they would be, what are we doing, first of all? And if the answer is, I've never thought about it or nothing, then the volunteer can say, well, let's partner together. Would you be willing to partner with me and learn how to do this? But I need to do it with you because spiritual resiliency is a big part of that. And, I'm a Christian, but I'm not a biblical scholar. And there's a lot I don't know about faith. I mean, I'm learning, but, the idea is not to come in and fix people. Okay, you're not there to be a counselor. You're not there to be a nurse. You're not there to be a pastor. You're there to be a support system. Our mission statement in Vet Connect is to provide encouragement, friendship, and support through the healing power of Jesus. So it's definitely rooted in Christianity, but it's not rocket science. It's people science. It's being aware when someone's struggling. And can I give you a couple examples of some of the goodness that's happened in our group?
Definitely. That's what this is about. Let's hear the good.
Okay.
Let's hear some good.
So remember before I said that, when you typically start groups that people kind of gather based on the leader, because that's who they resonate with, or that's who they're comfortable with. Well, so most of our group, the more active participants were women mostly. Well, one of them was a military spouse, and her husband had some pretty significant PTSD. He basically shut himself off in the house in his bedroom for months and months. And so we focused on supporting the wife. And and so I met another combat veteran in the community who had been to an experience called Mighty Oaks. And that is a residential camp where people go to heal. It's focused on combat veterans. This gentleman went as a agnostic or an atheist and came back saved, but believing in Jesus Christ. And so he met the first guy I was talking about, who was kind of staying in his bedroom, and was asking if he could be discipled by him as a new Christian, because this first guy who's in the bedroom was also a strong believer and a pastor on his own. And so anyway, the guy who was staying in the bedroom ended up going to Mighty Oaks and came back and said he felt like he'd had 30 years of stuff lifted from his life, and was doing really, really well for a few months. And then unfortunately, he's kind of back in the bedroom. But the point is that I couldn't relate to his experiences, but somebody else could, right? And so he did get some healing. And so that's wonderful. And there's another gal who is struggling with trying to be sober. She's separated from her spouse. She's the military spouse, and he's in a different state, the soldier. And she just feels very much alone. And so by keeping in touch with people, actively paying attention to what's going on with people, maybe sending them some scripture, doing whatever you're comfortable with. I would just send texts, encouraging texts. How's your day going? I make it my mission to be as attentive as I can be. And yet I'm very busy. So I'm not the best friends of these people, but I am a caring, supportive person who pays attention to what their needs are. And then I offer them resources too, because I know about the veteran community. So if you're considering leading a military ministry, there's basically three things you need to understand. One is military culture. And, it's not obvious, and it's even hard for military people to articulate a lot of times. I mean, I've studied it, and I talk about it, and I speak on it, and I've taken some courses on it. And so there really are some differences, right? And so even if you're a veteran, you have to say, no, think about this and keep this in mind. And then the other thing is a little bit of leadership, right? You got to have some organizational skills, have some communication skills, listening skills, and to have some planning. And so I can support some of that. And then the other thing is knowing a little bit about veteran community resources. And so those are the three kind of pillars or parts of my monthly coaching call. I charge $5 every time you show up, and I'm there to equip you, encourage you, and offer you resources so that you can be a facilitator of a group of people who feel disconnected and are looking for a place to bond based on their military service, and really kind of forge that sense of belonging that is oftentimes missed when you take off the uniform. So what other questions do you have? Maybe I can address for you, Rich. What are you thinking?
Definitely, that was definitely a great point right there. Another point I'd like to say is, you said earlier that kind of when you bring the group together, it kind of helps with their mental clarity and such as well. I think that's because they're missing that purpose. They're missing that brotherhood or sisterhood that they had while they were in uniform, and now they have accountability partners again. Whether it's a three person group or 20-person group, no matter how big the group is, if I'm sitting next to Joe or Josephine, and I know they're there every week when I come in there, I don't want to be the person that doesn't show up that next week.
Nice.
So I think that'll be my accountability partners there will say, hey, that's why I'm alive the next week. So I think that's awesome what's going on there.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of it, just showing up and listening and caring and, telling your story is very powerful. And who better to tell your story to than thank you, Jake. You're giving all kinds of ideas for our church. And Jake, I'd love you, buddy, to come. The coaching call is 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the first Sunday of every month. And again, these activities and how you serve and support people in your congregation. This isn't rocket science. It's really people science, and it can be whatever you want it to be. Check this out. I know this. I cover them in my book. There's a deacon, which, as you probably know, is a volunteer who has specialized training in the Catholic religion. Excuse my simplicity, because I'm not Catholic. But this one guy owned a computer business. And so, on his off time, so to speak, he never had any off time. He was a deacon and he wore the collar, and everything. But he created a non-denominational regional military ministry called Pairing and Praying.
Ah, yes.
Okay. And so couples typically would come to him when they were struggling, be it marital issues. We all have our stuff. And he would start with prayer. And then what he would do is connect that service member with a service member who was successfully transitioned of the same branch. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that essentially they were developing a battle buddy, a post-military battle buddy, a newcomer in their community. I mean, can you see the magic in that, Rich? Right?
Definitely.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's super simple. And so the other part of the story is I had met him when I was the director of community outreach for the Ohio National Guard. And we started our clergy outreach program. We had a clergy working group. And so we offered the community clergy training program that the VA had. And we had quarterly meetings with military and civilian clergy to, learn from each other. We'd have different speakers on different topics. And Deacon Tucky, what a great guy. He called me one day and he said, Kathy, I really want to start this military ministry, but what else do I need to learn? And I said to him, Deacon, you've taken every course that we know how to offer. I said, you got everything you need to know. Just lead with your heart. Well, I think underpinning his uncertainty was his fear. Oh my gosh, what if somebody has PTSD? Or, oh my gosh, what if somebody's suicidal? Now, you experience both of those things in civilian life, of course, right? I mean, it's not just military people who struggle with either of those things, or substance abuse or depression. I mean, those things are universal, right? But I think he was just uncertain about that because he has a computer business. Okay, he's not a counselor, he's not a therapist, he's not a psychologist, a nurse. So anyway, 3 years later, I said, so I remember you were concerned about PTSD and, potentially how you might handle suicide or suicidal ideation. I said, what's happened? And he said, well, you know what? It's never come up. How about that? I mean, I don't certainly know exactly why, but my gut says, somebody took the time to pray with them, to develop a relationship with them. And then potentially they had a battle buddy in their community, Army to Army, Marine to Marine, best you could. And, hopefully the spouses got something out of that too. I mean, just think about that. I mean, is that hard to do? No, not really.
And it's easy. I mean, once you get a bunch of military veterans in one room, you're going to find someone that you gravitate to right away. And you'll probably talk to that person like you've known them forever, even though you just walked into them. No matter what you're having, coffee, beer, wine, whatever, cake, you're going to wind up talking to them for hours about things that neither one of you really knew about before. But now you're talking like you're both in that same situation and become friends. You could even cross friend like Army to Marine. You just got to throw some crayons in there.
There you go. And you nailed it on the head right there, brother. You nailed it on the head because we have such an affinity for each other because of our military service. that's when the stories start coming out. And of course you're gonna have more affinity for a soldier who's had some of your experiences. A female veteran's gonna have more affinity for me, right? Because of, our lens. But that's the beauty of a military ministry, is just create the opportunity and the environment for people who have served and their families to build bonds and lean on their faith to help them heal. I mean, if one of the members is, let's say having a baby, take them a meal. Somebody is just coming home from a deployment, or going on deployment, send them a letter. We sent some care packages to a son and a daughter who happened to be stationed on the same ship out of
Oh, wow.
San Diego. That was a super neat connection. Just communicating with people and, keeping them in your thoughts and being, doing small acts of kindness go so far. You don't really know where those ripple effects will end. So I think that about covers it. Although I could talk a little bit about the partnership with clergy if you wanted me to.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get some in there.
Okay. Uh, Anybody who's listening, feel free to, share a question. I just don't want to keep rambling on here if you have something you want me to talk about. But the partnership with clergy is really important. They need someone to lean on to, do the heavy lifting, to, be the organizer, the admin person who, I mean, for instance, I created a newsletter, and that's the way I primarily communicate with people. And we have a prayer list on our newsletter. Um, uh, and so they're going to really lean on the volunteer to make it work, to know the resources, to know the people, to know the military people, pretty well as you can, depending on the size of your group. And then, we count on him I count on the pastor to be aware of, new military people in the congregation, to, as appropriate, maybe say, hey, so and so, seems to be struggling a little bit. There was one time, this one gentleman who was showing up at our group, a Vietnam veteran, and he was, his wife had died recently, and he was having some health challenges, and he's having some struggles with his kids, his adult kids, and he was very active. And then he just all of a sudden stopped showing up. And so I went to the pastor. This guy's comes to church all the time. And I said, "Oh man, haven't seen him in a while. Is he doing okay?" And the pastor said, "Oh yeah, he comes to the other men's group that we have, and sometimes we have conversations. He's doing all right. He's having some struggles, but right there, none of us can know everything that's going on with people, right?" And so the pastor kind of fills in the pieces, and then one person one time felt like they needed a counselor. Well, I was new to the community and I didn't know this was a military spouse. Well, I didn't know a Christian based counselor in the community. And so, of course, I asked the pastor, and I shared that resource with her. Now, our pastor is relatively new to the congregation and building the church. And so he's had a women's conference. And so we did a project, went out and bought the supplies and created the project for the 80 to 100 women that showed up at this conference. And we basically made ribbons with thank you on it and took it down to the VA to give to the Women's Center. And so that was a, kind of a mutual thing. We're supporting the church's women's conference, and we're weaving in awareness about female veterans, and, giving sort of a little gift to the women veterans. And then when our pastor has events, he calls it Meet the Pastor Night. Well, Vet Connect, I really encourage Vet Connect to show up. And you know what? We're kind of the lion's share of the people there sometimes. And so he supports us and we support him. And then we, as the facilitator of the group, I keep him informed about what we're doing. And we recently went to an expo, a volunteer expo in the community, and had a table and passed out flyers trying to find military connected people in the community. And then we're hoping to partner and grow with some of the other local churches in the community. So, you just start slow. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have some knowledge. And the biggest thing is that you lead with your heart and that you're willing to kind of jump in there and be dependable, follow through, and let people know you care by paying attention and acting on some of their needs, based on what you can do. Right? There's a lot we can't do. There's a lot we can't do.
Definitely control the things you can, and other things, let the person that's in control steer the ship. And that way
Yeah.
you don't stress out over the little things. And that's what causes a lot of problems throughout our world today, is trying to control things you have no control over. And that leads to those paths of darkness and running down.
Wise words, Rich. Wise words.
I do my best. A lot of studying and a lot of listening to smart people like yourself give me
Yeah.
ideas and help out with all of our Breton brothers and sisters, and of course the rest of the population out there as well, first responders and all others that are
Yeah.
suffering. Everyone can suffer trauma. Everyone can suffer
Right.
stress and depression, and
Right.
we need to look out for everybody, not just our own blood, but everybody.
And we look out for other people by literally or figuratively wrapping our arms around them and praying for them, offering them practical support, doing nice things for them throughout the day, and then being there should there be a crisis, and knowing how to, connect them to the help that they need as best you can. You don't have to have all the answers. Just kind of need to be a nice person, right? A faith-based person who, acts like the hands and feet of Jesus and loves people in the way that in the way that you know how.
Exactly, and be and listening to hear, not just to answer. Listen to hear what they're saying, because sometimes they put that tidbit in there that you weren't expecting. Like, I do not want to be here anymore, or I am not wanting to be in this life, or something's, I don't want to do this no more. You
Right.
want to, if you want to actually listen to them, listen to it and hear it, and then you'll be able to save them in the long run.
Yeah. But help them come all the way home. I really believe that these experiences can help curb veteran suicide, decrease that social isolation and help people feel connected and hopefully understood in some ways. And, just like somebody, gives a, you know, SHIT, right?
Exactly. Be
Yeah.
there, be there for everyone, and actually just sit down. Like I learned here on the show, especially, to listen to the person complete their sentences. Don't try to talk over them as much. Even if I get excited, I try to step back and like before you asked me, do you have something to say? Yeah, I do. I want to jump in, but I want you to finish your thought, because that's
Well,
the
what
way to do.
excites you about what I explained about military ministry? What do you think is
I
good
think
about that?
I think the best thing about it is, like I said, having that accountability partner and saving
Okay.
more and more of our sisters and brothers out there. And the fact that you have Vietnam veterans that are in there, because we don't have a lot of them that talk to anybody really. So
Yeah.
it's great to have them sit in a circle, or sit in however you guys sit, and chat and be there, and be present and do things like that. And if you can con them to come on the show and tell their story from Vietnam, that'd be great. I had one on the other night from Vietnam. He was
Uh,
amazing. I'd love to have another if they're willing. Don't push
yeah.
them outside their comfort zones.
Well, and with this military ministry, ours is very eclectic. It's a group of lots of different kinds of people. If you had a larger group, I could see having the Vietnam veterans be a subgroup, and maybe the male combat veterans be a subgroup, and the female combat veterans, or just female veterans generally. Maybe the military spouses, because everybody has sort of a unique experience, and can kind of become their own informal support group with somebody who can facilitate. And again, you don't have to be a super trained facilitator, but this coaching call, I call it Military Ministries Matter. You can find it on Eventbrite. Is the first Sunday of every month, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also find it on my website. My website is vanguardveteran.com. My email is Kathy with a K. That's Kathy with a K at vanguardveteran.com. If you have any questions about military ministry or, want some resources, I would encourage you to email me or check out my website. But I think really, if you have even the little bitty anxious kind of interest or desire or curiosity about a military ministry, jump on the coaching call, Military Ministry Matters, and don't be afraid of it. Just, do it afraid, take that first step, and you'll be amazed at, how you can really come alongside and help our brothers and sisters. So do you do show notes in your podcast, Rich?
I do when I produce it for the podcast itself. So that'll be out probably March 7th. The show will come out on all podcast networks and YouTube again. And the show notes will be in there completely. If you want to add more than I have off your one sheet, I have your one sheet now, but I don't have anything on the military.
I'll send you an email with some links in it, if that's okay.
Awesome. I'll put them in the show notes.
Thank you very much.
And Kathy, thank you again for joining us tonight. It's been great. I know Jake and Chuck were jumping in, having a good time. More people jumped in as we went longer because there was kind of a glitch with About Face Radio, but we're back on air there now too. So they're back on that side.
Oh, okay.
So more people jumped on YouTube and then went back onto there. So I'll probably replay this again a night when I don't have a guest lined up already, so everyone can hear it on the radio as well.
Thank you.
That way you get more exposure and more people can hear about the great things you're doing out there in Phoenix and living that hard life out there in that rough weather.
I know it's pretty rough, but for anybody who's not a veteran who's listening, if you're a civilian, please join the Veteran Champion movement and be a part of the win. If you're not sure what you can do, get the book, Beyond Thank You for Your Service, the Veteran Champion Handbook for Civilians, available on Amazon. Might not be a bad thing for a veteran to read it too, actually, especially the part on military ministry to get you going. But Rich, I appreciate everything you're doing for the veteran communities as a veteran advocate. And I hope that this isn't the last time we speak. And let me give a big shout out to the 101st down there, Clarksville. Yeah, my husband would be very proud of me. Very proud of me.
Definitely. Stay on the line. I'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes after some ads play, and we'll talk some more stuff.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're in the big leagues when you make a perfect slide. You're in the big leagues when you keep the team alive. You're in the big leagues when you block a shot or two. You're in the big leagues when you're in the big league chew.
Big League Chew, man-sized wads of great tasting shredded bubble gum stuffed into a giant Stay Fresh pouch for big league flavor and big league bubbles. It's Big League Chew.
You're in the big leagues when you're in the big league chew. How we do it. This is how we do it.
Not on my show, it's not. This is how we do it. Isn't that much better? And that's how I do it every Tuesday and every Friday here at About Face Radio on the Just Wait Here show. Be sure to tune in. I'm on every Tuesday evening starting at 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. in the mountains, and 6 p.m. on the West Coast. Then catch my morning show on every Friday morning starting at 7 a.m. Central, 6 a.m. in the mountains, and 5 a.m. Pacific. Again, that's the Just Wait Here show with me, Max Wait, every Tuesday and every Friday. Be sure to be here on About Face Radio. I will see you then. Aloha!
Decreasing property values in a neighborhood near you. It's the Atom Bomb Radio Show every Thursday at 4 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Eastern. only on About Face Radio. See you there.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. It's themisfitnation.com to catch up on all of our episodes and also to get some of that great Misfit Nation gear. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are